pleasure of introducing somebody to you all that has inspired me. Sometimes I think that she's crazy because her sacrifices are large, and but she has a way of recycling them into just a beautiful community give back. Oh, I'm gonna cry. Sometimes when I look at myself and Jeffrey that was here earlier, he's like, who is she? And I said, oh, she's like me. We have these philanthropic pockets that have a puka in it. So we actually have a lot of things in common as far as contributing to our community and our community give back. I will let her tell you, chant her genealogy, but she has worked on houseless and homeless issues, data mining really, on Maui. And as Mahina pointed out about people being our resources, I think this is parallel. This is an interesting connection and thread to what Lisa Darcy is going to speak about. She started a nonprofit, Share Your Mana, and she had some seed money, and if she wants to talk about that, she will, but I'm really proud to have her here today to talk about her work. Thank you. And Michelle, can you introduce her?
Yes. I have the distinct pleasure of being a sister of faith and speaking before you here today. There's so much that needs to be done. Sometimes I have to collect myself. So that said, I would like to introduce my dear colleague, Diana Powers, who we met years ago, and she'll be presenting with me today on something that I live, I breathe, I recognize in every single person that I see. And I had 18 pages. I thought, I'll get it down to 18 pages. The social impact of non-action, creating safe living options for the unforgiving systems, economy, and culture. And that is meant to provoke you in all the best ways. And what I have to say today, I hope provokes you in all the best ways, even if you leave here going, because I want us to come back and I want us to have these dialogues. I want us to be like, you don't want to do this, you don't need to do this, I make a job. And then I would bring somebody in and do that job. So at the height, I was overseeing, I think it was close to 164 jobs a day for people who have severe, persistent mental health needs. People thrive. Everybody thrives when you have a community that thrives. And that's what we did. So I was asked to come out to Maui after I met this fabulous Hawaii group. And they said, oh, come, we need help, we need help. And I came to Hawaii. I'm going to condense this. But I first of all, it was because of the Felix decree, the lawsuit that the DOJ was bringing onto the state of Hawaii because they couldn't figure out where the programs were, where all the money was going. They have all this money, but they had no programs. Maui didn't have a program here, and they said they did. So I was asked to come out and start it. I did. I thought it went swimmingly. We started to work on getting jobs. We started, the individuals were creating newsletters. They were having open houses. I know every senator, I knew every county council. People were so thrilled to see people thriving. But literally, almost like the day that the DOJ gave Maui the shining star in the DOJ report, it got weird. It got really, really weird. I found myself pushed out very quickly. And the door was slammed, and I ended up resigning. To this day, the program has not moved now. It has not gone forward. It has fallen back to where it was when I came. I want to talk about elephants in the room. We need to talk about elephants in the room. I can post you 100 solutions, but I can guarantee you they won't go anywhere without the elephants in the room. And we have to, as a community, figure out how do we respectfully agree to disagree. How do we respectfully stand before each other and say, wow, that was not a good decision and we need change? And how do we make it better for each other? Certainly for this housing crisis, because this affects every aspect of our lives. Every aspect of our lives. And yeah, okay. So what I want to do here today is I want to make sure that I honor every single person that has put work into this up into the moment in time we are right here, and I want to honor everything that everyone here takes away. And you're going to jump, Diana's going to jump in. This is her first time ever standing. We've known each other a long time, but thank you so much for coming. So I want to make that. Are people comfortable with jumping into elephants in the room?
What do you mean by elephant in the room?
Okay, so you know that way sometimes you leave a room and you're like, that wasn't the whole point. You know, like nobody brought up this is a problem. And we need, if I give you an example, it may. Yeah, no, if you don't understand any of the language or the lingo that I use, it can be something provocative that you're uncomfortable to talk about also. That's something it is. But this, I think, is really important to take conversation into action. So my question is, this is an elephant in one of my rooms, is why is there no urgency to take action from the top down? The housing crisis is not, like this didn't happen overnight. This is, I've been here for over 15 years and I've watched going, oh my God, I read the Haleakala at times. Deb Lorden used to let me write everything in Maui Weekly. And when that got the plug pulled, you know, because I was educating people as well with the honesty that I saw. So why do we not see, why do we have every single top person in these settings talking about how important it is, but why isn't anything happening? So to me, that's an elephant in the room. And I go, why is that? Like, what is behind that?
Because they could have profit.
Okay, so that could be the elephant in the room. It's money. I would argue any single day that we have plenty of money. I would argue every single day that we have plenty of resources. We have it. And this room alone could move a mountain, I believe. It's totally true. So that topic unto itself, not having urgency, is an entire topic. Why are we perpetuating myths? It's a pretty simple answer. Probably because we're not that educated, right? And hand in hand with that. And so when people say things that are so off the mark, I go, well, I'm just trying to help you understand how you know that or why you know that. But I realized we have no platform for this dialogue. There is none created in the community. Many agencies, and we've heard even today how people are creating these platforms, and I feel now in charge and responsible for creating these platforms to have these dialogues because we're not getting it from the top down. But we're going to need to do it from the bottom up, and so that we don't keep perpetuating myths. People are lazy. There's so much misinformation about mental health and addiction and why people are living unsheltered. And the other thing is that's such a small group of people that are living with unsafe conditions. That's a small piece of it, but yet it gets all of the focus. So how do we actually bring the true education forward? That's to me one of the elephants in the room. Why are there no individuals who are having experiences being houseless or homeless on these task forces? Why are they not partnered side by side in these offices? Why do we go to offices to have these conversations? Why are we not sitting with people where they're at, struggling? Why do we expect them to try and figure out a bus schedule or try and beg for a ride or try and get off of their third job and live out of their car? Why are we asking them to come to these rooms? I ask this all the time. So what I do is I see things and I try to look at it in the reverse. I walk through the shoes or the slippers or the bare feet of whoever, or maybe I don't know. Sometimes people you wouldn't know that they're struggling. So you can't always tell. So I want to know is why the program that I came to start, like why is it okay that it just got shut down, and why is it still going on business as usual? That's an elephant in the room. It's a huge elephant to me. I'm going to also, I had also, so that this isn't such a heavy and weighty topic, I also want to say that I'm very excited that all of these things have solutions. all of these things, when you have an open mind and when you have someone to facilitate the actual ideas. I didn't know anything about, the Limu, and I mean, I've read little bits, but like that's amazing what it's going to do to my mind and how I'm going to think about this. And Georgia, I've seen your name and read about you now and on all these things, and I'm kind of jazzed about Molokai now, the Maui, lecture, what they've done over there. Like I am so turned on by what I have heard today that I want more of this. And this is another year we gotta wait. So there's lots of things that we also need to acknowledge. Here's another big elephant in the room. When I met Faith, she saw the work that I was doing, and as someone who is not from Maui, it's really so warming and welcoming, because I've been in meetings with that woman who came from New York, or she's a New Yorker, and I was like, but they weren't talking about me nicely, and it was really awkward just to think that because I'm not born or raised here, that I don't have something really genuine to offer this community. And I want to make sure that people know that. But to me, that is a massive elephant in a room when I come in sometimes. And I want to honor culture. I want to honor the privilege that I have been given, born into this container. I want to honor that I don't know what it's like not to be able to sometimes go into a boardroom and get the respect that others would not get. I want to honor that. So I also want to say that's something that I think if we are really going to have any impact on this crisis, we have to acknowledge all of these things. And we have to be open to talking about them. And we have to be willing to personally change our behavior. I started carrying my own spork. I think I got one 2 years ago. I carry my own spork everywhere. I usually carry my own cup and plate too. I decided I never wanted to be a part of any type of trash anywhere. And I don't want anything that is ever going to sit somewhere and never going to be composted. I have so much reverence for Mother Earth. And I think about her every single day that she gives us life, every single day. That when you go into stores, you buy things with packaging, this is not just about challenging our moral or spiritual, this is about our behaviors, and I want to really make an impact on changing our behaviors and to support good behaviors. And one of the things I would also like to say as an elephant in the room is, has anyone heard of sweeps? That the county goes and they go and they clean out areas?
Yeah.
Really compassionate disruptions, they call it. I would argue that they're not compassionate. I would argue that what happens to the individuals, the amount of trauma that is caused, is beyond words, and it is something that is going to also continue to end up making individuals who are in poverty or marginalized second-class citizens. They will end up, they wanted to do legislation to criminalize people's behavior, and when you do that, the psych hospitals that I used to visit are now they're now jail, they're now prison. And what you do is the cost of that money and the cost of people putting in because they're sleeping and they have nowhere else to go, or they're frequent flyers at the hospital, the cost of that monetarily in itself is, no one has ever even run the numbers on that, but we know that it is huge. We also don't know the numbers on the moral and the emotional impact that has on what somebody feels like. You're being swept. You're being put away like trash. And I would argue that that would undermine the ability to move this topic forward in and unto itself. So what I really thought I'm coming to be uplifting, and it's a tough subject. It's not, I don't really like go cry. I'm like, oh my God, shit about it. But I am going to, with Share Your Mana and with help, I'm going to start creating platforms where we have dialogues, where we have actual concrete solutions, funding more case managers, creating the educational platforms, reducing communication barriers. And I don't have any slides with that. This was kind of last minute, so yeah, and I'm very disorganized right now. We need the opportunity to fail. When I was at the Department of Health, I was told by my supervisor, you can't do that because somebody might fail. And I go, but in that statement is the opportunity to succeed. And I always look at it as the opportunity to succeed and learn. But my supervisor was absolutely dead set. And maybe this is a cultural thing, because if you think you're failing, then you lose face. I didn't know any of this. I didn't understand losing. I lost my face a long time ago. So I was like, I didn't understand losing face, because I've always been around community that helped each other. When you go off track, you get in here, you pull each other in. So I didn't understand that, like the shame, how deep shame is. That is something that's an elephant in the room. I think we also have to know how much is going on at the shelters. Like families haven't been able to go to the shelter for 3, 4, 5 months now because they're full. Do people know that? No. So when you see people, like they can't even get in if they want to get in. Anyway, yeah, I don't. And you have to keep track of the time because
You can take a little bit of the afternoon break time. You're doing okay.
Okay, yeah. So do you want to go ahead and take some questions? Yes.
I was going to make a comment about an inspirational thing that I've heard recently on the Big Island, where they opened up an old hospital where there was a psych unit on Wyoming Avenue, and it used to be, you look at it, it looked haunted and everything, and they refurbished it, and now it's a beautiful old hospital for men, unsheltered men, and they just had this beautiful picture yesterday of them opening it. Have you heard about that?
I haven't heard about that one, but people sent me believe me, I have been places around the country. Solutions can happen. They can happen. We need a political will. We need the community to say we want to try and we want to fail. We want to succeed. We want to.
I was wondering from a policy standpoint, if you're building houses for the needy, can you give preference to certain, I know with affordable housing there's 60% AMI and all these different things, the formulas they use, which don't work, obviously, or else they would be working. But from a policy standpoint, can you give housing to one person in need, but not to everybody who's in need?
So this brings some of...
Because that's how the government looks at it. I'm going to give you $1, well, I have to make it available to everybody, and from a state standpoint, it's a taxpayer dollar, so that it's supposed to be available to anybody who is in need.
So some of you may know that I was the executive director of Ho'omoana, which was the only that I know of privately funded foundation that was dedicated to serving individuals who were homeless. And the mission was to build on private land campsites. And you may have heard about this because it's been through all kinds of legal action. And I was part of that whole design team, all of the wraparound services that would be a part of it, everything. It was all private money. And part of what happened was we decided to do, because we knew there would be a wait list immediately, and to give preference to individuals who were, local. And we could do that because we were a private foundation. And we didn't take any larger monies from no taxpayer money. So if you have those kinds of partnerships, that I believe is some might be workable. But that's why I also I'm interested in doing a completely grassroots program, is that so you don't get your hands tied by things like that. And here's another elephant in the room. When Ho'omoana went forward with all of the steps and the SUP and went through planning and all this stuff, there were 2 people who came out strongly testifying against it, and that was the Department of Housing and Human Concerns here on Maui, and the Maui Homeless Alliance, with whom I've worked with many, many, many years. Right, you go, but why would the people that need this most come out and testify against it? I still do not know, because I said, well, I don't, maybe you guys can help me with this, because I'm not understanding it. But their way of thinking is that it isn't housing first. But again, we're not saying we want to compete. Housing first is its own beast. And if anyone has ever read $1 Million Marie from Malcolm Forbes, it gives you the whole history of it before it ever became a governmental requirement. That we're like, we're going to be the pipeline to Housing First. You know, that, like, we are in support of that. We are going to work in tandem.
It's like a halfway house.
And it was absolutely, there's no budging them. There's no budging them. And I thought, if these are going to be our peers working together, like, how do you make that work when your peers?
Is there public housing? I mean,
There is public housing.
it clearly it doesn't seem like, clearly it seems like there's not enough public housing.
Well, you know, this is such a massive topic with affordable housing and all of these layers that the only thing I felt was appropriate to even speak about was how do we start bringing all of these entities in, because we don't have forums like this to talk about these housing and the really legitimate issues that are before us. And we get these sound bites, people say, oh, and then everyone claps and they go home and nothing moves. Or you get, I would like to hold the Department of Housing and Human Concerns and the Maui Homeless Alliance accountable for really, you know, also, you know, not supporting it. Like, what do we have to do to work together? Like, why would you not see this as a win-win?
So the other question is on state money. Many other states don't have this problem. Basically, that you have to be a resident for 2 years or 5 years to qualify. So, it turns out that's not a legal issue. So I don't know where people think it's a legal issue.
There's lots of reasons not to move ahead, and I think part of it is that there's lack of education.
You do leadership.
There's lack of awareness. There is leadership that may not actually have the depth of knowledge that is required of this massive problem. So when people get into positions and they don't have the scope of understanding, and yet they're in a position and they got to catch up and learn, all of us have to sit and wait for them to catch up and learn while the problem gets bigger.
Or they have to delegate.
So,
that's how our culture operates.
well, and that's what I say, is today different? Can today be different? What do we need to do to make today different? And which Diana and I met doing the survey for the annual count, which we do when people are living unsheltered. And we became instant colleagues. I was like, we're going to work together. I was like, how do you feel about that? So, Diana, what do you see as some of the solutions or ways that...
Can you step it up? I'm from Oregon, and Oregon is actually totally, like in Eugene, Oregon. I lived there for a year before I came to the islands about 5-6 years ago. They have solutions for the homeless in Eugene. They actually have one big parking lot for the homeless that have cars and vans and trucks. And then they have a big warehouse, kind of like a thrift store, but it's free to all the homeless. And that really works. In the wintertime during the snow, they've been building wooden, kind of like, you know, the wagons they used to use in the pioneer days. They've been building wooden shelters for the people in the snow. And a lot of solutions have been solved in Oregon and Eugene in different cities. And I've actually seen it with my own eyes. And
that we should model after.
It's really working.
And we could. And here's the other
We could do
thing.
it here. Because here, the government doesn't seem to really care. So I was a caretaker for the Buddhist monastery in Paia for 3 years. And the police came one morning and wiped us out. They killed my kitten, took my friend's money. The police actually did this. And they said that Mr. Bono was in charge of this. And I go, no, the Buddhist cemetery belongs to the Buddhist monastery, which has been there 100 years almost. Anyway, they were really brutal. There was fishermen behind me on the graveyard site, farther back. They were all local friends of mine. And they just demolished everything. The police officer said that I know one of the security guards. She was a woman. And I would have told them I need to move out, right? And I went to the bathroom, came back, everything was gone. My tent, my kitten, they killed it. They stole money, everything. I had like $3,000 worth of really good things. Beautiful clothes, everything. And anyway, I'm not camping there anymore because I had permission from the monk. I was a really good friend of his teacher. And anyway, I'm living in haiku now on some land. I'm an organic farmer and gardener. And anyway, there are solutions that can be solved here, but on this island, they don't know what to do. In Honolulu,
Can I segue into why I love farming? I grew up on farms, and I have this really deep belief and connection with the land and with the soil and with just being outside. And I started going to the farmers union meetings, and I'm good friends with Jerry and Janet and Judy because they understand how well. And I lived right next to them, so like I kind of knew them right away. But I was just like, wow, this is really great. And when I was at Ho'omoana, one of the solutions to all of this is getting back to work. Once you are in employment, and once you have a place, and once you have something to say over the holidays, you can complain about your boss. You have a place in society. When you have holidays or whatever, and you don't have a job, or you don't have nothing to talk about, it's horrible. It's horrible. And that's where you have depression, that's where you have isolation, you have all of these things. The Kupa'a Farms partnered with Ho'omoana, and a couple of times a week we would go up and we would just do all kinds of menial work that they didn't want to have to spend a lot of time on, shelling beans, pulling the garlic. We even planted lots of potatoes. But we did that kind of stuff, and Ho'omoana paid half, and it was $10 an hour, and Kupa'a Farms paid $5 an hour. So the person left with a paycheck and with a reference. So if anybody, I started resumes with people because now they were working. And when I was at Ho'omoana, actually met people that came in. It was an open door policy. Within a day or two, I had seen people that had been living on the beach for up to 3, 4, 5 years come in and get a job in a couple of days. Because I did their resume, I did everything they needed. I figured out their bus pass. They didn't have to take 3 days to go do an office to get something to come back. We got in the car, we drove to wherever they needed. I just did the whole package in the same day. They didn't have minutes on their phone, so they couldn't get a call back. We went out and we put minutes on the phone that same day. So I actually saw people who had not been working for anything. We went out and bought outfits, we did everything. We're like, oh, what's that? Like buying shoes, or went to Goodwill first, can't find that, then we go, we did, and everything. Could probably get somebody working for about $250. That's all it took to get somebody who had been living on the beach, now employed. This does not cost a lot. The solutions are not costly, but they require the way that we think about individuals to change, and we have to believe people have deserve the opportunity to, and we have to create the steps. I didn't make people ask for minutes on their phone. I said, how many minutes you got on your phone? Let's go get some. Do you need a bus pass? What do you mean, do I need a bus pass? I didn't make people grovel to me or, try and come up with some huge, I'm like, no, these are requirements to succeed. And I had the list. And I said, if you need anything on this list, just check it off. And I would make tea for everybody when they first came in. I had a whole tea center. I'd make their first cup of tea. I said, how to. Every single person went into the bathroom and scrubbed their cup and brought it back. I never asked.
Even a lot of them have jobs.
So what I'm here to say is, we have lots of elephants in the room. We have another one when we were gone, and they're all. We can manage them if we talk about them. We can actually create solutions if we talk about them. But I think we don't make progress as a community because they are still there's just so much discomfort. But with dignity and with respect, we can do this.
I feel compelled to share something because when we talk about elephant in the room, it's about leadership. At the end of the day, right? Political leadership, community leadership, professional leadership. But I have to say, for that purpose, that growing up here, when I distinctly remember occasions when there was someone who appeared homeless and clearly for some instances in need of mental health care, we could literally call the family and say, your brother is outside our shop or whatever, and then the family would come in a car load and help out, it's like, oh gosh, yeah, we lost track and we were wondering what happened to him, that kind of thing. Today, fast forward 30 years forward, this is a very bitter community. That's the elephant in the room, right? So we have 30 years, in my knowledge, my history of losses.
you cannot have a well community, and it's a real innate struggle because I would like to think that most, if not all of our communities come passionate, because that is not just aloha, it's just human. But when you come off of the 10 years, if you look back for 10 years of high school graduates today, if there's assuming 1,000 high school seniors have graduated, that's 8,000 of our teens that have a future of very minimal hope. No housing, no meaningful work, fight for everything, fight. That's the nature today. So it's hard for everyone to contain that. So my point is that when trying to solve big issues, and it's very strange, like, you know, because I love the work we do, and I admire all the initiative and getting out there. But the challenge of trying to get community to the table has to be so holistic because I think generational families who probably would have helped more or put out forward more really struggle with that because our kids don't have homes, our kids, so the compassion bucket gets smaller, and then you see this generation today who can't even fight for community without hearing the word fight first, which is really alarming to me because that's all they know now, fight. Like, because there's no dialogue, right? We fight first, talk later. And then maybe I don't talk to you for like 2 generations. You know, it's hard and it's ugly. So I think big issues like that, like housing, like food, like ag, if leadership doesn't step up, get in a room and have a dignified, honorable, purposeful, is this the best we can do discussion, we lose all around. For in the realm of homelessness, housing, food, we are headed from Maui to a very loose future because the spirit of our people are exhausted. You can hear it.
So, Mahina, when I came here and I started to witness enormous support because people were interested in learning, enormous support for mental health. I also went, oh my God, Maui is not prepared for what is coming down the pipe. And there's nothing I can do except watch this unfold. And, you know, the pressures from the whole state, the pressures from the mainland, the pressures from the entire stresses of the world are going to filter down into this little microcosm. And I went, oh my God.
And the most vulnerable
are the ones, yeah. But I will always argue that every single day we have that look from above and we find ourselves in the chair and we look each other in the eye. I will always argue we have a chance to make really good change and that we can turn the word fight into share and we can turn the word whatever, however, and you as a community leader do this all the time and maybe you just don't even see it because you're so busy doing it, but you turn those words around all the time. And so you're somebody I look to do this. And anybody who steps up, who is brave enough to put out a comment or show up, you don't even have to speak, but if you're brave enough to show up, then you are participating in the solution. And my bottom line is, this is a target-rich environment.
We can make a difference.
But yeah, everybody can make a difference. And one of the things that Share Your Mana is doing, I didn't talk a lot about Share Your Mana because I wanted you to understand where I came from, is that Share Your Mana, I get calls from people and they say, we want to do something to help. We want to do something to help. And I go, what do you want to do? They go, well, I don't know. I go, okay, I create projects. So I create projects. So right now I'm working with a choir in haiku in our country who raised $1,000 and they want to help people that are struggling. I said, great, let's make first aid packets. So they raised the money, they did this benefit, and now we got together and we stuffed first aid, we got donations, and then during Homeless Awareness and Hunger Week, which is in a week and a half, we're going to go out and we're going to distribute them. All of the ladies are going to do this. So they meet people and they are not afraid. You know, they don't want to feel the shame when they look at somebody and maybe see maybe part of themselves or that they feel like they're not doing enough. I'm like, no, you come meet people. Come meet everybody. Let's meet each other. So we're creating those actual projects where people meet each other. Yeah. So anyway, so sorry
Go
so
ahead.
much.
Well, it just I think our like Hawaii's homelessness issue too is like really, it just goes so deep because there's like this huge history of displacing Kanaka from their land, you know, and then alienating them because of it. And so I think that there's like this real deep cultural part of what is happening, and there has to be some type of understanding or appropriateness in the way that's, you know, taking into accountability for like generational trauma.
Is going to also continue to end up making individuals who are in poverty or marginalized second-class citizens. They will end up, if people are, they wanted to do legislation to criminalize people's behavior, and when you do that, the psych hospitals that I used to visit are now they're now jail, they're now prison. And what you do is the cost of that money and the cost of people putting in because they're sleeping and they have nowhere else to go, or they're frequent flyers at the hospital, the cost of that monetarily in itself is, no one has ever even run the numbers on that, but we know that it is huge. We also don't know the numbers on the moral and the emotional impact that has on what somebody feels like. You're being swept. You're being put away like trash. And I would argue that that would undermine the ability to move this topic forward in and unto itself. So what I really thought I'd come here to be uplifting, and it's a tough subject. It's not, I don't really like to cry. I'm like, oh my God, get out of here. But I am going to, with Share Your Mana and with help, I'm going to start creating platforms where we have dialogues, where we have actual concrete solutions, funding more case managers, creating the educational platforms, reducing communication barriers. And like, I don't have any slides with that. This was kind of last minute, so yeah, and I'm very disorganized right now. We need the opportunity to fail. When I was at the Department of Health, I was told by my supervisor, you can't do that because somebody might fail. And I go, but in that statement is the opportunity to succeed. And I always look at it as the opportunity to succeed and learn. But my supervisor was absolutely dead set. And maybe this is a cultural thing, because if you think you're failing, then you lose face. I didn't know any of this. I didn't understand losing. I lost my face a long time ago. So I was like, I didn't understand losing face, because I've always been around community that helped each other. When you go off track, you get in here, you pull each other in. So I didn't understand that, like the shame, how deep shame is. That is something that's an elephant in the room.
Avenue, and it used to be, you look at it, look haunted and everything, and they refurbished it, and now it's a beautiful old hospital for men, unsheltered men, and they just had this beautiful picture yesterday of them opening it. Have you heard about that?
I haven't heard about that one, but people send me believe me, I have been places around the country, solutions can happen. They can happen.
And all the situation that's in the core is that they don't want to give the Kanaka land. They don't want to give them any opportunities. But that's where the core lies, and then that's where it's just building up. So if they're going to say they're helping the homeless, that goes things for Kanaka, but they don't want to go there. So that's why you see this huge gap in between.
Yeah, Kanaka don't need jobs, they need land.
Yeah.
We don't need jobs.
Their own land.
So you bring up the really important This is all interconnected. It's all interconnected. And when we work together on projects, it's interconnected. I worked in mental health Kukua for many years, and I helped with Aloha House Crisis Mobile Outreach Unit. And I saw so many families that can't handle their own family members anymore because of the services are so poor here. And they can't get mental health treatment, they can't get more addiction, and people end up and I volunteer in the jail. And I see just the cycles because the families, they can't do it, they can't handle it. And the resources aren't here and they aren't prioritized. Our mental health and our addiction are not prioritized the way the needs are showing themselves, and so the needs just get bigger and bigger, and families are exhausted, and they cannot be in the role of caretaking anymore. It's not just about, kind of, these are some real serious behavioral needs, and there are solutions. I've watched people, and there are solutions. I've watched people, and there are solutions. I've watched people.